Since I have to be gone today as we start our brand new unit, I'm trying a little screencast for you guys so you can still get the mini lesson, even though today is a lot of researching on your own part. So again, I'm sorry that I can't be there as we start our new unit today, but I think between this and all the materials I have on Classroom and as well as the substitute, you should be able to still have a successful day. So, like I've said a couple times, our next unit is going to be on research-based argument essays. And so this unit is structured a little bit differently than some of the others. The first bend is going to be on the same topic that our entire class is going to be working on. So all of the mini lessons will revolve around the same issue, regardless of what side you choose. And so we can really work to hone some of the skills that you need to do for argument writing. Once we transition to Bend 2, then you will have a chance to argue and research any issue that you're interested in. So bend one is almost like practice. Bend two is when you pick your topic and you really start researching and arguing your point. Today's session is, I think, probably one of the most important ones because it really requires you to look at both sides of the issue. So it's a long title, but it's basically just, do you have enough information about your issue on both sides, regardless of what your gut instinct is? So think about the last time you had an argument with somebody. And even though you brought some pretty convincing evidence to the table, the person that you were arguing with just basically crossed their arms and insisted that they were right. They shook their heads. They didn't even really consider what you were saying. They were just so predisposed to what they were thinking that they were never going to change their mind. Those arguments are probably the most maddening, and they're not successful. Okay, these papers, these essays that we're going to be writing and working on over the next couple weeks, they need to be constructed in a way that shows me that you really looked at both sides of the issue. Um, this still happens to me today. In fact, the other day I had an experience that I'm pretty sure some of you have had as well. I found myself in an argument with my mother. I talk to my mom almost every day on the phone, and most of the time it's just a quick check in. But for some reason, we were arguing about something so stupid. I can't even remember what it was, but as we argued, I got so frustrated that I literally had no words left. Like I had nothing else to say to her. Um, and so think about the last time you had that argument when you were really mad and you really wanted to get your point across, but you couldn't. As you're thinking, what I want you to do is go ahead and pause the screencast and turn to the person next to you and talk about the last time that you had an argument. How did you feel? What were you arguing about? Did you feel like the other person was actually listening to you? Or were you like me in that you kept trying to say what you were thinking, but eventually just got so frustrated that you had nothing else to say? Okay? Go ahead and pause here and talk to the person next to you about your recent argument. So the reason, again, why I think that this session is so important and this whole unit is so important is that this unit will help you become more skilled at arguments so that you can actually be heard. You won't be feeling frustrated. You won't be that person with their arms crossed who refuses to hear what the other person is saying. And so, like I said, to start, this first bend is going to be all about an issue that is currently being debated all over the country, and that's should kids be involved in competitive sports? So today I want to teach you that when taking sides in an argument, it is important to start by weighing evidence that's offered up by both sides, to stay open and to suspend your judgment so as to develop a considered opinion. And even that opinion, your initial position is a preliminary one. Okay? Even if you first hear some convincing evidence and you say, "Oh, okay, that's I totally buy that. I believe it." You still want to suspend your judgment before you've heard from both sides. It's almost like, I don't know, you're a jury member. You want to make sure that you hear both sides of the argument so that way you can make the most informed decision. So today, as we start looking at this issue of should kids be in competitive sports, what I need you to do is head to Google Classroom and open up the Bend 1 document that looks something like this. Okay, this is the same old, I guess, system or setup that we've had all year so far. And you can kind of see right here, session 1, weighing evidence to form considered opinions. This is our game plan today. Okay, so again, today you'll begin researching sides of the issue of competitive sports for kids. This means that you'll want to figure out the reasons and the evidence that supports different viewpoints, learning about the opinions of people who think differently than you do, and learning also about the evidence that people draw on to support their positions. So even if you're a year-round athlete and you think that sports are the best thing ever, it's important to suspend your judgment and still look at evidence on the other side of the issue. Okay, so there are a number of resources on this document for you today. You'll see that here in the blue, we have a pro and a con and an other list. As you're doing research today, it's your job to kind of put evidence and reasons in these columns wherever you see fit. You can see up here, if it's in the pro list, it means that the article or the video that you looked at has evidence that shows competitive sports are a good thing for kids. If you put it in the middle con column, it means that that article or video is showing some evidence that competitive sports are maybe a bad thing for kids. The last column I put just because sometimes information doesn't quite fit in either or you're not really sure, like some part of the evidence or some part of the research could go either way, and you're not really sure if it's pro or con. Okay, so sometimes we just need that third column. Okay. The first piece of research that you're going to be looking at today is an article called Listening to Wisdom from a 10-Year-Old Son About His Head Injury. I do have a link in here to the New York Times article. However, I felt that since this is our first day in the unit, I did want you annotating this article instead. So it is printed and the substitute has it and it looks like this. So everyone should get a copy of this article. Although it's from 2009, I think it's really well written in the perspectives that it shows, especially because it's written from a dad's perspective, but he's listening to what his son is saying about his head injury. So just a quick tip, you can learn a lot about what an article is going to be about just from looking at the headline. So when we see the headline of this article being Listening to Wisdom from a 10-Year-Old Son About His Head Injury, we can probably assume that there's going to be some evidence, something in this text that shows some negative aspects to competitive sports. Maybe some of the things that I get from this article will go in my con column. Okay, obviously I have to keep reading to find out, but you can kind of see when you're looking at the list of resources that I have for you on your Bend 1 document. A lot of them you can tell where they're going to fall just from looking at the titles. Okay. So what I would like you to do is go ahead and read this article. And since it's a printed copy, I do expect you to be annotating it. That means highlighting, starring, underlining, putting question marks by things you're not sure of, drawing connections to things that are spoken about in the text. Okay. And then once you're finished reading this article, go back to your Bend 1 document and add in your evidence wherever you see fit. Okay, so put some things in the con column if there's some things in the article that show you that maybe competitive sports aren't always the best thing. Same goes for the pro and the other column. It's your job to really dig deeper and analyze the text because most articles aren't going to come out and say, hey, look at this piece of evidence. It means that competitive sports are terrible and you shouldn't sign your kids up for them. Okay, it's going to be implied. And so it's your job to really uncover that by reading and analyzing and seeing what is the author trying to get across to me as the reader. Remembering that you need to collect details that clearly support both sides of the issue. After you read this first article, there is another one that you can also find that's printed for you at the front of the classroom. Okay, and it looks something like this. It's titled, "Get Off That Couch and Play." Again, considering what the title of it is, we can probably assume that this article is going to offer some different or contrasting evidence to the last article that we read because it kind of sounds like this article is in favor of kids being more active instead of, inside watching television or sitting on their phones. Okay? Again, just an assumption, but I think it's safe to say. Okay? So you're going to do the same thing for this essay. After you read through and annotate this article, Get Off That Couch and Play, go back to your Bend 1 document and add in your evidence where it falls. Okay, pro, con, or other. After you have read both articles, you've annotated the text, and then you've filled in the evidence where it belongs, go ahead and work with the people at your table to just talk about what you're learning, compare notes, see who has what in their table. Maybe you misinterpreted something or you missed something, okay? It is important that you try to kind of even this table out. You don't want to have one pro and 15 cons, okay? So try to make it relatively even. Although you may enter this work with a gut feeling on competitive sports, you need to consider alternative points of view. So because of that, there's a list of other resources down below on the second page that I want you to use these resources to continue to gather evidence and various points of view so that you can build reasoned arguments. Okay, so obviously you've already read these first two. Those were the two that I had printed for you. For the rest of class, you can look through any of the other resources that I have here for you. Some of them are links to articles, some are videos. And continue adding evidence to your competitive sports table. Okay, you might need to add some more columns in here or rows, but that's totally fine. Okay. For the rest of class, again, look through as many of these resources below as you would like to, really concentrating on evening out both sides of the issue. Next class, I will tell you which side you are going to be on, and you will be responsible for having a mini debate with another classmate. Okay, so even again, if you think that competitive sports are the best thing ever, I might assign you to the con side, and it will be your job to prove that competitive sports are maybe not always a good thing for kids to be in next class period during our mini debates. So that's why it's so important for you to have a filled table on both sides. Don't just stick with one. You need to fill out both. If you're unsure of what your tasks are today, maybe you need to back up. I know I went over a lot of information in this screencast. The agenda is also posted on the whiteboard, and it is a step-by-step list on Google Classroom. The last thing, after you've spent some time researching and adding stuff to your table, at about 1:45, the end of class, there will be an exit ticket that appears on Classroom that you need to spend time filling out. This is super helpful because it shows me what you learned in my absence today. Okay, when I see you again, we'll try to recap this, but again, we're going to have mini debates, so come ready to talk about either side. Okay, lots of researching today, lots to be done. If you have questions, you can chat or email me. I'll try to respond. Otherwise, have a great rest of the class and work hard.